I'm in awe. I mean, it's the hand of God. It can't be anything other than the hand of God bringing the world to the brink completely, and it's so visible. It's so obvious. It's like my rabbi said just this morning. That the Creator is bringing the world to a state of war, and that we should pray from the Psalms so that God will not bring all this war, and that it should be canceled, and that we should have the messianic revelation that I've been talking about for so long, and many Jews have been anticipating for thousands of years, and now recently, even more fervently and passionately. It looks like it's a definite go. Nancy Pelosi is left today for the Far East, for Asia.
And I guess you're hoping that her plane's going to be shot down by the Chinese.
Would be nice, but I'm not betting on that happening. I'm just betting on this being another wag the dog smokescreen distraction from both the United States and China. I have a sneaking suspicion that this is all being done in collusion because both countries are on the verge of an economic meltdown, and they need a ruse, they need a storyline, they need a narrative, and this is it. You always go to war when you have transitions like this of the world reserve currency that is unprecedented. It's a global reserve currency to such an extent that it's to have it undone and replaced and the mantle kicked off the mantle is going to require a spectacle. It's a big, huge spectacle. This is not a false flag. This is a
I'm
coordinated.
reminded of what serial killers do, because obviously serial killers kind of get a kick from what they do, which is to kill people serially, and when they don't know what to do, they go for the next victim to kind of clear their head, so to speak.
Right, and they become more brazen, and they become more arrogant, and they give themselves away with their sort of like haphazard, sort of like careless, sort of. In the beginning, they're more careful, and then in the end, they're careless, and they want to get caught. So this is something along the same lines. It is obvious that China is going through a serious banking crisis. All of those protests of mortgage, holders that are refusing to pay
yes,
their
you were
mortgage.
talking about Evergrande, and it's a property company that's too big to fail or something.
Right, and all the others that have also defaulted. All the rest of them, there's not one that's solvent. All of them, all the property developers, all of the big, banks and funds. One major Chinese bank that's connected to all of them are connected to the Chinese government. I heard this morning has begun to limit the withdrawals of the depositors. It's called capital controls. They've implemented capital controls in one of the major banks, not some country bank or some unknown bank, one of the bigger ones. All right, and bank runs have begun in Australia because there's contagion. Australia does business with China, so they've done business with the banks that have become have become illiquid or bankrupt, or now Australian banks have been contaminated. There's contagion in Australia. And I'm getting this from the insiders, from people I listen to that point out the articles from Australia, that there are long lines at this one Australian bank, and those are considered bank runs. The people are being informed that they also cannot withdraw all of their money. I'm assuming there are capital controls at this bank that has gotten into trouble. This is how it begins. This is the chain of events, the domino effect, right? And so, why this all of a sudden the saber rattling fiasco? Why all of a sudden all this the show, this act, this drama of it? Oh, Biden is talking to Xi, and Xi is warning him: if you play with fire, you'll get burned. And if what else is he saying? And then Biden is supposedly trying to warn Pelosi not to go to Taiwan. And then he changes his mind. He says it's up to her. It's her decision. And what is this? Like a soap opera drama going on over here. It's all premeditated. It has a feeling of being staged. It just has that feeling about it. And we all know that a lot of these puppet politicians have been bought and paid for by China. In the previous election, they caught that one guy with the what's his name? That Northern California congressman, Swalwell. They call him Swallowswell. He had his Chinese honeypot, the dragon lady. I forgot her name. She was very cute, and it turns out that she's Chinese intelligence, and she extorted him and turned him, and he's a Chinese spy agent. And same goes for Pelosi, and same goes for the other senator over there in California. That Jewish bitch, what's her name? I forget her name, but she has like a Chinese handler. She's had a Chinese handler for the longest, forever. And she wants to implement a gun control. She's so hard up for getting people's guns in America and for reversing the Second Amendment. What's that stupid cunt's name? It doesn't matter. I don't have to. People can look her up. And then so many others in high places get caught as being bribed by China. Politicians and people in high positions of power in America. It's just recently, it just goes to show these tactics get used. There's an article now talking about Ukraine having been caught trying to bribe Russian fighter pilots to, with $2 million in homes in the EU. They tried to bribe them to fly their planes over to Ukraine to the Ukrainian side of the conflict to surrender their planes and defect for $2 million. And there was a Russian counterintelligence, a girlfriend of one of the pilots, a supposed girlfriend, a plant. And she was listening in to all of this, and she reported it. So she's counterintelligence. This is 007 cloak and dagger shit going on here. But that China is very good at it. China played the long game since the 70s. It's part of undermining America, destabilizing America, and slowly weakening America. It's part of clandestine warfare. This is not overt kinetic warfare with weapons. It's not. It's more of a subterfuge, cloak and dagger. China does it, and it does it well. So it not only gets the intellectual property, it gets the intelligence information. They extort it, and even Biden and Joe Biden. Hunter Biden did business with China. Everybody knows it. He took billions of dollars in bribes from China. His business partners admitted to it. 10% for the big guy. Nobody is that has half a brain will believe the gaslighting and believe that Biden is actually an independent operator. He's a puppet of so many different powers and so many different puppet masters. But now I have a sneaking suspicion this is being done deliberately. It's too obvious. It's like, why? Why do you want to know? It's like, they had an expression of poking the bear, like starting trouble with China. Why do you want to poke the bear? No, it's like, why do you want to poke the dragon? What the fuck is wrong? Why do you want to poke the dragon now? Unless the dragon wants to be poked. Unless the dragon has given you orders to poke it in order to create a storyline, in order to create an excuse, in order to create some sort of, a smoke screen, a nice news story as to why China had to dump close to $1 trillion of its foreign reserves of dollars, treasury bonds, and American debt. All right, and why America all of a sudden got attacked maybe by North Korea with an EMP weapon, that satellite that's floating around, that story they've been telling forever, that North Korea has a satellite in orbit that orbits the United States in like right over Kansas, over middle America, like right in the Midwest center. Oh, and they can explode this EMP, and then America's in the dark. Oh, shit. And then all the debts go away. Then all of a sudden Wall Street, it goes black, and all the banks and all the everything goes dark. And then, it's the perfect excuse. Everything got wiped out digitally. Oh, shit. That could be a scenario. Or Russian cyber attacks. There we go. That's a perfect excuse to also use, Russia's counterattack. because they have a coalition, allegiance, alliance, whatever, with the BRICS and with China and all the banks. They can make up 1,001 stories. They've been floating this around for months. They've been putting this into the minds of the zombie viewers of the mass media in America. Oh, Russia has cyber attack capabilities that they can take down our infrastructure, and they can take down our banking, and they can take down the financial. For months, they've been spewing this crap into people's faces. Come on. Are we supposed to be that fucking stupid? People will know what happened. This is too desperate. This is too quick. This is too. It's undiplomatic, but it seems like it's forced. Like Nancy Pelosi's getting marching orders. What the fuck? I mean, do you have to be that stupid?
What do you mean that Nancy Pelosi's getting a marching orders?
Somebody's. Against all the most logical sense of it is why are you going to poke China? Why aren't you going to poke the dragon when they've given you the warnings? It's about survival for them. It's like the responses that China gave, that Xi gave, is we'll respond militarily. This is a threat to our sovereignty. This is a threat to our future interests as far as in our territory and our territorial waters. I'm not coming to the defense of China. I'm just laying out the scenario here that it's fishy. It stinks. And China, I believe, has an instrument in these stupid schmuck American politicians that they can puppeteer and make it seem as though there's like some organic conflict that's about to spontaneously erupt when it's all premeditated and organized. Somebody's telling her to do this, and Biden is playing along. He's playing the act of like, oh, well, I tried to warn her off from doing it, but it's her decision, and you're the president, right? All right. I mean, you got to think a little more conspiratorially here. This was worthy of conspiracy theory. Okay, things behind the scenes, and not even behind the scenes, in front of everyone's faces, are falling apart. America is in a recession. It's not a technical recession. It's a recession. The lies that they're telling they're lying through their teeth. And China also, the CCP has all the reason to start a war as a distraction, to say that they needed to take emergency measures to control the banks and the banking crisis that they have over there, that they're trying to cover up. All of it has finally reached a head. The contagion from all the defaults of the big real estate developers like Evergrande and all the other ones. I've got like a highlight on my nose. I don't like it. I'm doing self-evaluation, and I don't. Yeah, just let me get the lighting correct here. Here we go. All right, that's better. And anyway, so it just stinks to high hell, and she's going to be there then probably in the next few days, as soon as Sunday or Monday. She's off today. She's gone. She's flown with the rest of her gang, her entourage of congressmen and other players. And Pompeo wants to go, the former Secretary of State. What are they going there for? They're going there to instigate a fight, to have an excuse. It's like one of Salente's saying, Gerald Salente Trends forecast, whatever. You know this guy I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. He says when they've run out of all options, they take you to war. When all of their ammunition runs out, as far as playing the game of maintaining the illusion that everything's hunky dory and routine. When that kind of like exhausts itself, they take you to war. He said it in other words. He used the expression, when you've got nothing left to lose, you lose it. Or when people have nothing left to lose, they lose it. That's what's going to happen. That's where we're headed. But he also said that when they, when the powers that be run out of options as far as playing the game before having to go to war, they will eventually take you to war. Now, honestly, Claire, just out of a sheer common sense, logic, and rational thinking, why in the hell would she want to do this now? Give me your answer.
Because she's mad.
Or she's
because
getting
she wants to start
orders.
a war. Because she wants to start a war?
Yeah, or she's getting orders. She's a mafia bitch. She's a mafia don. She's like an Italian U.S. government bought out, implant of the Baltimore mafia. That's where her family's from. she's got a long legacy of mafia activity in California. Her entire family. The Governor Newsom is related to her. They're all one big fucking what do you call them, cartel or Cosa Nostra in California. That she comes from the East Coast, and that's what she is. She's probably getting marching orders straight from the Vatican as well, in collusion with the Chinese. She's getting marching orders. She's not doing this of her own volition. She's not doing this because she's calculating. She's just as senile and as moronic. She's a fucking drunk, and everybody knows it. And she's just as senile, as dumb as Biden. She's a puppet. She's not doing this because she's willingly or consciously doing it. She's getting marching orders from her superiors, from her puppet masters, the ones that pull her strings. All right? There's no way in hell that this kind of bitch will do something of her own initiative, when time has become so critical. I mean, financially and economically, things are ahead in China and in America. It's reached a critical boil, So this distraction by way of war is what is being used now, and it's happening quick, And China has all the reason to allow it to happen, and the United States has all the reason to allow it to happen. And I think there is some sort of collusion going on over here. Mm-hmm. I don't think there will be a kinetic war as far as planes being shot down, military conflict. That's the worst case scenario. We have missile exchanges, and then China activates their proxy, Kim Jong-un, and that's what he's doing. He's provoking. He's doing all sorts of missile tests and all sorts of provocative moves and measures, and the tensions are rising, and that's what's being reported on in South Korea, North Korea, on the DMZ there. China is activating Kim Jong-un. And I think it's like, again, everybody has their theories, but it's just too obvious. It seems like this is coordinated. It seems like there's collusion going on over here behind the scenes by the big, manipulators, the engineers of all these things. But what can I tell you? It's like, I don't, in my belief, as far as what will go down, is that China will use this as an excuse to dump all their treasuries, stating or a kind of pointing out or sort of the point that Russia's bank, foreign exchange holdings in overseas banks were all confiscated, and so they'll use this as the point as to, like, we're going to war. There's hostilities. We cannot trust the Americans because they've already shown us that they weaponize their currency, their debt. And that's what they did to Russia, and that's what they're going to do to us. We're dumping all of our treasuries, and they need that money.
Yeah, and if the average Chinese suffers, that's a reason. Blame the Americans for
yes.
And
yes.
It's nothing to do with China, and it's
right.
Credit bubble. We didn't do nothing wrong.
Right. It's a way of covering their asses. They're getting a lot of heat. They're getting a lot of protests, mass protests. By Chinese saying that they were defrauded by the banks by illegal lending measures, illegal lending practices, and they're suppressing these protests, just like the Tiananmen Square massacres and that they committed. They're doing it again. The Chinese are the CCP is interpreting these protests as political protests. And not a banking crisis, which is it is both, but it's more of a banking crisis than it is a political protest at this point. So they want to nip it in the bud. They're not going to start another Wu flu. That's been overplayed. Now this requires a more dramatic event, and the more dramatic event is war, and Taiwan, and that excuse, And America has all the reason and all the incentive to want, the American establishment, the puppet masters over there, not the American people, but they have all the reason and all the, not justification. It's not justified, but they have all the motives. They have all the interest to get into another war, and to say that they were, hit by an electromagnetic pulse, or by cyber attack. They want to wipe out all of their debts. Also, they want to reset all their debts. They want, they're desperate. They're in recession. There's inflation headed towards hyperinflation. They're in a cycle that's unstoppable. And inflation has gotten out of control. And the Federal Reserve is playing, is talking out of both sides of its mouth, saying that they want to raise interest rates and employ quantitative tightening. And in the meantime, they're employing shadow quantitative easing. Everybody knows it, along with the European Central Bank that does it openly, that declared that they will that there's unlimited bond purchases that the central bank will employ in order to save Europe from imploding, fragmenting, all that. But the Federal Reserve hasn't formally said that they'll reverse course and pivot and go back to quantitative easing, but they're doing it, and everybody can sense it because yields are going down. They're employing yield curve control by way of quantitative easing, which means they're doing more bond purchases. They're printing more money. They're lying. Nobody believes them. They've lost their credibility. This is where we've come to a head. And so because they're visible, they're exposed, and nobody believes them, that's another excuse to go to war as a distraction. But there are too many people that are wise to this. We've expected this. We saw this coming. We knew it was going to come one way or another. We thought it would come by way of Russia, Ukraine, but there are other, theater. Their other theater of warfare in global warfare is the East, the Far East, the Pacific, China, and Taiwan. And it's stated in the book of Joel. It's prophetic. This is from a biblical prophecy. It's unbelievable. And it describes a monster, and it describes what would happen in the end times, that its belly would be exposed and all its nastiness and foul odor, and its foul. I should find it for you. It mentions Afghanistan.
It'd be great if you could read it out in your scariest voice.
I will. Just you got to give me a second, and in the meantime, you can provide your commentary and your reactions, and I'll find the exact quotes.
Well, I think what you say makes sense. Tactically, if you want to, prepare your citizens, your people for some bad stuff, and want to take the heat off yourself, you can blame your traditional enemies. So I guess America started it blaming China, and China's going to do this tit for tat thing and saying, if most Chinese people are going to lose their investment, it's because of the Americans who've always hated us, blah blah blah, and everybody has their own idea of the Great Reset. Nationalists have their own idea. The religious people, and everybody has their own idea. Have you found it?
Yeah, I think it's Joel chapter 3. It mentions. One second.
I'll just go and get my Bible, which is in the other room. Hang on a sec.
Okay. Could it be here? Valley of Jehoshaphat. Maybe it's only 4 chapters. The book of Joel. It's a very short book. And
so we should be able to find it easily.
Yeah. I'm scanning.
Yeah, I'm there already with my book. My hard copy of the Bible.
The northern one. It mentions the northern one.
The northern one. The 4 chapters, right? So
yeah. Okay. Well, let me. I could do the search more specifically. I'll write the northern one in the book of Joel. The northern.
The Joel, is it Joel you're talking about?
Yeah, Joel.
So it starts as an invasion of locusts, a call to repentance, an army of locusts. Rend your heart, the Lord's answer, the day of the Lord. The
Yeah.
nations judged, blessings for God's people. So which
Oh,
one?
here it is. I found it. Joel 2, 19 through 27. I found it. Okay, that's good. I found the right keywords. 1 second. Here. Oh, why? Oh, I got commentary on it. Let me find it on the site I like. Mechon Mamre. It's the Hebrew. 1 second. Joel Mechon Mamre. I
I
mentioned
think
this.
it must be the nation's judge that you want.
That too. But there's specifics here about mentioning America or the powers that be, not America, but more like the powers that be. A yeah. Here it is. 19. But I will. Oh, here it is. Okay, good. All right, Joel chapter 2, 19. It mentions the period of time when the Jews are dispersed, exiled, throughout the period of exile, throughout the period of wonderment, prior to the end times and the end of days. And that's where it starts off here in 18. The Lord, then was the Lord jealous for his land and had pity on his people. And the Lord answered and said unto his people, behold, I will send you corn and wine and oil, and ye shall be satisfied therewith. And I will no more make you a reproach among the nations. This is in the end times, prior to Revelation and Messianic redemption and the revelation of the Messiah and the final redemption. So this is what he talks. This is what is being talked about, and this is in reference to what has happened over the past several years. The northern one, I should tell you, is a mention of Babylon or the Assyrians. They're also always were referred to as the northern one in the prophets because they came from the north and conquered Israel and Judah from the north. But it is said in the end times that whoever conquers Iraq or Babylon will become themselves the northern one. Whoever destroys let's say Babylon, or you call Baghdad, Iraq, all the wars that the West has fought against Iraq. It's not just America. All the coalitions that are of Western powers that have occupied, controlled, destroyed Iraq, they actually fulfilled prophecy, and they themselves became the northern one. So you can consider the West, and primarily the United States, as the northern one.
Yes.
Here it goes, chapter 2, verse 20. But I will remove far off from you the northern one, and I will drive him into a land barren and desolate. That is Afghanistan, in my estimation, with his face toward the eastern sea and his hind parts towards the western sea.
Would that be the Mediterranean?
Yes. So imagine a creature, a large beast, all right, with its face looking towards the eastern sea, and consider the geography, consider location, consider a position. All right, it's the Middle East. There's a beast sitting on it. All right, and he's in Afghanistan. He's in Iraq. He's in whatever in all of the Middle East. There's a beast sitting there. All right, and his face is looking toward the eastern sea. From that position on the globe, the eastern sea can only be the Pacific. Okay, and his hinder part towards the western sea. His ass, his butt, is facing the Mediterranean. So what should happen? So that his foulness may come up, and his ill savor may come up, because he hath done great things. Great things do not necessarily mean good things. They're grand things, great things, tremendous, profound things, earth-shattering, life-changing things, historical level things. So this is a mention, and who has been scrutinizing the Jews and Israel for the longest time, since its foundation, since its founding, since its beginnings in the late 40s. At first, they were ashamed because of the Holocaust. The West didn't open their stinking mouths, them and their Jesus obsessed nonsense, or secularism obsessed, human secularism obsessed crapola, where they have such a bitterness towards religion and their own religion that they have to, talk crap about the land that their fathers and forefathers relished and saw as a prize, as some trophy. But now they're butthurt, so they'll still try to scrutinize the Jews in Israel because they're butthurt. Their religion is false. Their God is false. They still want to defend them because it's their tradition, but they can't live up to the truth. So what happens with these motherfuckers? All of their confusion, even if there are people that are sentimental and still want to support Israel, you got to realize Europe and America has become so sick and twisted because they've ignored reality, ignored the truth, ignored the one God in
You're roboting.
favor of the exaggerations. Why is God saying and telling the Jews of Israel, fear not? And he's telling it to the land, also to the land of Israel, not to the Jews living in Israel, but to the land itself that's constantly being scrutinized, constantly being obsessed over and talked about, and constantly being, fought over, and put it into fancier terms, constantly being gossiped and talk and scrutiny and just constant judgments and So why is God saying, "Fear not, O land, be glad and rejoice, for the Lord has done great things." Okay. So he's the one behind it all. He's the one pushing and pulling and forcing these nations to do what they do, and powers and people and kings and queens and whatever, presidents. And he continues, "Be not afraid, ye beasts of the field, for the pastures of the wilderness do spring, for the tree beareth its fruit, and the fig tree and the vine do yield their strength." Meaning the land has been replenished and revived, and there's life where there was once a barren wasteland, a desert. "Be glad then, ye children of Zion, and rejoice in the Lord your God, for he giveth you the former rain in just measure, and he causeth to come down for you the rain, the former rain and the latter rain at first." There's abundance, there's prosperity. The land is the people living here in the land have fulfilled prophecy. The land bears fruit. The land is prospering. There's life here, and where for 2,000 years there was almost no life here. "And the floors shall be full of corn, and the vats shall overflow with wine and oil. And I will restore you the years that the locusts have eaten, the cankerworm and the caterpillar, and the palmer worm, my great army which I sent among you. And ye shall," that's desolation. That's more like, what do you call that? Pestilence. That's more like plagues. That's more like, the hand of God, and, causing things to be barren. The land was sealed shut once enough of the Jews had left here. The Jews went into their exile and dispersed throughout the whole world. And there was a curse put on the land, and the land was sealed shut. It didn't bear fruit. It wasn't, fertile. And then when the Jews returned, the prophecies were fulfilled. The land became fertile again. All right, and so what else does it say here? "And ye shall eat in plenty and be satisfied, and shall praise the name of the Lord your God, that hath dealt wondrously with you. And my people shall never be ashamed. And you shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your God, and there is no one else. And my people shall never be ashamed ever again." Although we went through a period of being ashamed and made to feel ashamed, 2,000 years of exile, close to. All right, and the reason behind it being the false religion that sprung about from all those wars that led to the exile, the Jesus, and the false religion of Christianity. All right, "And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams. Your young men shall see visions. And also upon the servants and upon the handmaids in those days will I pour out my spirit. And I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes. And it shall come to pass that whoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be delivered. For in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem there shall be those that escape, as the Lord hath said, and among the remnant those whom the Lord shall call. All right, chapter 4. It's a quick read. For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring back the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, that's Israel in its current state, the Jews having been brought back from exile, from being in captivity amongst the nations, for having undergone so much suffering, persecution, and mass murder, genocide. That's what it's in reference to. For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring back the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, the end times is referring. That's why everybody that knows their Bible knows that we are in the end times. That's been fulfilled. I will gather all nations and I will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and I will enter into judgment with them there for my people and for my heritage in Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and had divided my land. This is well before the destruction of the Second Temple. This is well before the Romans. This is this is a prophecy that was written down. The book of Joel, I believe, was if I'm not mistaken, during the first exile, the Babylonian exile. He was along with Ezekiel. I think he was a contemporary of Ezekiel. It was Joel. And so this is not mentioning the huge a disbursement the Romans had put into play. All right, and they have cast lots again. So I will read it again. I will gather all nations, and I will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and I will enter into judgment with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and divided my land. And they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for a harlot, and sold a girl for wine, and have drunk. That's what all the captives after the wars, the Jews that fought against the Romans, the children were sold into slavery, to sex slavery, both boys and girls, and they ended up being dispersed throughout the whole entire Roman Empire. And this was very well documented. Even the Gentile nations documented this. From there being such an abundance of slaves, they no longer could be sold because there were so many of them. So they couldn't even sell them. And also, what are ye to me, O Tyre and Sidon, and all the regions of Philistia? Will you render retribution on my behalf? And if you render retribution on my behalf, swiftly, speedily, will I return your retribution upon your own head? This is God saying, look, if the Jewish people, if Israel needs to be punished, and I use you as an instrument to punish them, but you take pleasure in it, and you render retribution on the behalf of God, but you claim that you're doing something right, and you're doing something that's approved of, you're mistaken. No, God may be using the nations, but when they overdo it, they exaggerate to such degrees that they lend themselves this kind of this liberty. The Germans or whoever throughout history, the Cossacks, the Crusaders, the whoever, if they thought they were on some sort of mission that they had to punish the Jews, and God has given them license and authority to do so, God is answering them here. This is from over 2,400 years ago. And if you render retribution on my behalf, swiftly, speedily, will I return your retribution upon your own head? All right, so for all the scrutiny and for all the agony and torture that the world has put the Jews through, accusations and pointing fingers, because of the fact that Israel has been reestablished, including religious Jews abroad that have their stupid arguments for why they shouldn't be in Israel, and also they do the scrutinizing, and they do the finger pointing, and they make the accusations too. They'll be made to pay. But first we'll focus on the nations, the Gentile nations. Speedily will I return your retribution upon your own head, which you thought you had the authority to enact upon the Jews as some sort of retribution. Listen, you enacted it, now you'll pay. You'll have to pay. For as much as ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly treasures, and the children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold into the sons of Yevanim, that's the Greeks, and you might that ye might remove them far from their borders. The Greeks were slave traders also at the time. That's mentioning the Greeks. Behold, I will stir them up out of the place whither you have sold them, and I will return your retribution upon your own head. Okay, and I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Judah. Does that sound a little bit, a cause to say, well, in the end times there's an expectation that the nations will serve the Jews? That's where it comes from. And I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Judah. My rabbi, who is the Mashiach, in my personal belief and many other people's beliefs, has said this: it will not be captivity whereby you have personal handmaids and slaves that bow down to you in your home and serve you as far as, physically in your presence. That's not what it's referring to. It means the nations will provide sustenance to the Jews in the end times. The Jews will not want for anything. The Jews will only have to study the Torah in order to correct the mistakes that have been made throughout the centuries and the eons. That's the correction. The Jews engaging in Torah study and prayer and being faithful to the one God of Israel. And the nations will sustain, not directly people living here bowing and serving the Jews. No. It's basically providing sustenance. Israel will not have a want for anything. That's what it is referring to as far as selling the daughters and sons. It's retribution for 2,000 years of being treated like subhumans, and being accused of killing God, and all the accusations and the protocols of Zion, that crap, and everything in that vein, everything in that sort of a genre or in that spirit will have to be atoned for. Everything that the Jews had to be made to suffer for, all the burning at the stake, all of the rapes and murders, all that. 2,000 years worth. You can imagine what the retribution will entail. The full spectrum, full scale, scope and scale of it. It's going to be massive. All right.
Well actually, if you work out what would be a likely punishment of Christians for their idolatry and blasphemy, it would be hell. If there's a Christian section of hell, it would be a very big section. If idolatry and blasphemy is indeed punishable.
Well, Europe is already turning into hell. Imagine them not having access to their money. Imagine the financial systems falling apart, the banks shutting down and not giving people access to their money, credit freezes. People will eat each other alive over there.
Oh, no, I meant, for previous, for dead Christians. What I'm trying to say is, if idolatry and blasphemy are mortal sins, which Christians even classify these sins and offences, then if you're guilty of it, you go to hell, right?
Yeah, well,
that's how it's supposed to work.
Let's not dwell on that. It's going to be a living hell. And I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Israel, and they shall sell them to the men of Sheba, which means Sheba is Yemen and Saudi and the Arabs, to a nation far off, for the Lord has spoken. The nation far off could be Saudi Arabia. That makes perfect sense. All the incestuous dealings and wheelings and dealings, and then the Americans are servants of the Arabs for the petrodollar. That's a perfect reference to how that works. Proclaim ye this among the nations, and you know who did that? That was fucking Henry Kissinger, a Jew. A Jew turned America into a slave to the Arabs, for the petrodollar. A Jew, a German Jew, and that's a perfect fulfillment of that prophecy right there. Proclaim ye this among the nations. Prepare for war. Stir up the mighty men. Let all men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. That's America right now. It's very weak, and they're pumping their chests and saying that they're strong. That's not only America, that's Europe as well. The ECB and Christine Lagarde making a big act as though they can save the situation. They can't. They're weak, and they're pretending to be strong. Haste ye and come, all nations round about, and gather yourselves together. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Now God is getting involved. Let the nations be stirred up and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. For there I will sit to judge all the nations round about. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, tread ye, for the winepress is full. The vats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Okay, you can make sense of that. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. The sun and the moon are become black, and the stars withdraw their shining. And the Lord shall roar from Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem. And the heavens and the earth shall shake, but the Lord will be a refuge unto his people, and a stronghold to the children of Israel. So shall you know that I am the Lord your God, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. And shall Jerusalem be holy, and there shall be no strangers that pass through here any more. And it shall come to pass in that day that the mountains shall drop down sweet wine, and the hills shall flow with milk, and all the brooks of Judah shall flow with waters, and a fountain shall come forth of the house of the Lord, and shall water the valley of Shittim. This is a prophecy that water will come up from Mount Moriah. All right. Egypt shall be a desolation. This is a reference to the world, not just the geographic location of Egypt. Egypt is a reference to the material world, the world of emptiness, the world of empty material values. That's what Egypt symbolizes and represents. Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom shall be a desolate wilderness for the violence against the children of Judah. This is the retribution. Because they have shed innocent blood in their land. But Judah shall be inhabited forever and ever, and Jerusalem from generations to generations. And I will hold as innocent their blood that I have not held as innocent, and the Lord dwelleth in Zion, which means a cleansing, which means sort of a period where the Jews will do penance, will do tshuva, and God will clean them of their sins and their all the things that they've done wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I will hold as innocent their blood that I have not held as innocent, and the Lord dwelleth in Zion. It means just coming full circle, completing this long cycle, and the Jews finally earn and merit redemption and Messiah. And the ones meaning the ones that stay alive. And many will not. Many will go away. Many will that are joking and mocking and making fun of this, that will joke and mock and make fun of this in the face of God, in the face of the Messiah, will not live. I don't know how many of them there are, but a lot of them are starting to be, a lot of them are waking up and they're humbling themselves. And so I'm hopeful that it's not going to be too many. But the ones that have to go will go. They will go, the ones that have to go. Amongst the Jews in Israel and around the world. But imagine if the Jews are going to go, imagine the enemies of the Jews, what will happen to them. All right? Because there will be no mercy for them, no quarter. This is Judgment Day, the day of wrath. It will be so over, beyond over. They'll be dying by the thousands and dropping dead. Anyone that gets in the way of the Creator and has delivered the Messiah will drop dead. That's the warning to all of them. I'm not sending out this warning. They know damn well. They've heard it from many rabbis. They've heard it from my rabbi. They heard it from Christians that believe in this in their own twisted, perverted way. In the time when God gets involved, it's absolutism. It's not about debating, discussing, and verbal, diarrhea that constantly is being spouted out by so many idiots online nowadays. I'm laying it down on the line for you as it's written, as it's transpiring, as it's manifesting right now. All right? We are upon a global war that involves China, the United States, Russia, Ukraine, the rest of the whole of Europe, the rest of Europe, and the rest of the world. It's all intertwined. And let me read you something from the book of Daniel that should inspire people. This is the perfect opportunity. And I'll translate it. And I translated this for years, and I saw that this is fits the bill. This is exactly it fits the bill of what's happening today. It's not too hard to properly interpret it and properly understand it. Daniel chapter 11. All right? And it's the final verses. Let me see. It's not the whole chapter. The king who exalts himself. Okay, go to verse 36. Daniel chapter 11, verse 36. The king who exalts himself. The king will do as he pleases. He will exalt and magnify himself above every god, and will say unheard of things against the God of all gods, the God of gods. Okay, the one God, the only true God. Okay, he will be successful until a time of wrath is completed. Okay, for what has been determined must take place. 30 verse 37. He will show no regard for the gods of his ancestors, or for the one desired by women. Nor will he regard any god, but will exalt himself above them all. These are the transhumanists. Obama fits the bill perfectly. All right, he's a bisexual, he's a gay. All right, and he's what's the word to use? He's blasphemous, and the people he represents are all blasphemers. The whole entire the corporate world where that forms the World Economic Forum, Davos, the royals, the whole cabal of these sick, twisted bastards that have it in for all of humanity that are calling themselves the transhumanists. The climate change people, they want to do, they want to take care of the earth and the climate, right, at the expense of all of the world's populations. They want to call the populations population control. That's what it's in reference to. All right, he will show no regard for the gods of his ancestors. The Christians, not. This is not just an indictment of the Christians. It's an indictment of the ruling classes. They're not Christians. They don't give two shits about this false god Jesus. He served this function for them. All right, they will show no regard for the gods of their ancestors, or for the one desired by women. Meaning, they push the gay agenda. Does that not fill the bill perfectly? Why do you keep on, going on and on about Claire? You go on and on about the matriarchy and the twisted values of the intersectionalists and LGBTQ plus. That in one statement is a perfect reflection of all of it. In this word, in this statement, they will show no regard for the gods of their ancestors, and for the one desired by women. They put down men, heterosexual men. They put down the patriarchy. All right, just by that one statement alone, that's their objective. That's their agenda. Okay, and they have no regard for the one desired by women, for straight heterosexual men, for the patriarchy. Nor will they regard any god, but they will exalt themselves above them all. They see themselves as gods. These are the transhumanists. What do you hear Yuval Noah Harari, the homo, saying all the time? We'll get past the God of the Bible. We'll get past Jesus. We'll turn ourselves into God. That's a perfect reflection of that statement. Instead of them, they will honor a god of a fortress. What? A god unknown to their ancestors. They will honor him with gold and silver, with precious stones and costly gifts. These are the power brokers, the money masters, the manipulators. These are the people in control of the central banks. Okay, they will attack, and I'm using a plural instead of a singular because it's not just one king or one person. This is the cabal being referred to in the singular. They will attack the mightiest fortresses with the help of a foreign god, and will greatly honor those who acknowledge him. All right, they are Satan worshippers. They worship Satan as a god. They will make them rulers over many people, and will distribute the land at a price. Who do these motherfuckers control? They control so many puppet politicians. They will make them rulers over many people, and will distribute the land at a price. What are they doing now? You see what they're doing. Sabotage, and they're destroying supply lines. They're doing all this stuff via their puppet political implants, like Trudeau, like Biden, like Boris. What's his face was before he retired? Now, before he quit, Johnson, and all of them in Europe now. Draghi that resigned. All right, these are their underlings. Okay. This is how this is a perfect reflection of these prophecies in Daniel. All right, their foreign god. He's not a god. They worship him as a god. They worship the serpent. They worship Satan. That's the Vatican. They have serpents and satanic symbology there all over the place. True Satanism, true Luciferianism, Greco-Roman pagan Luciferianism and Satanism. At its core, the origins of it. Okay, at that time of the end, the king of the south will engage in battle, and the king of the north will storm out against them with chariots and cavalry and a great fleet of ships. And that could easily refer to what's going on now in the Pacific. All right, and it also can refer to the Saudis and the Gulf Arab states getting ready to, take on the Iranians. All right. He will invade many countries and sweep through them like a flood. He will also invade the beautiful land. Many countries will fall, but Edom, Moab, and the leaders of Ammon will be delivered from his hand. This is talking about the Cabal. All right, even the Americans, USA, Edom, USA, Asav. It's like you reorder the words USA, and it comes out Asav, Esau, USA. Okay, USA. It's like a straight, straight up definition. Moab and the leaders of Ammon, meaning the Arabs that are under the control of the Cabal as well, will be delivered from his hand. This is mention of the Cabal. It's not just one single nation. It's not one single people. It's the Cabal. Okay, it's very accurate in the way it's describing what's happening now. They will extend their power over many countries. Egypt will not escape. They will gain control of the treasures of gold and silver. Who manipulates the markets? Who manipulates money, fiat currency? Who manipulates gold and silver? And the riches of Egypt with the Libyans and the Cushites. It's talking about mention of you could talk about Gaddafi. You could talk about their interference in Africa. Cushites is meaning Africa. They'll put them into submission. But get this, Claire. Listen good. Listen very good. This is perfect. Daniel, chapter 11, verse 44. But reports from the east and the north. But reports from the east and the north. But reports from China and Russia will alarm them, and they will set out in a great rage to destroy and annihilate many. They will pitch their royal tents between the seas at the beautiful holy mountain, meaning Israel is at the center of it. All right? And yet he will come to his end, and no one will help him. The end of the Cabal. You understand? Verse 45, they will pitch their tents between the seas by the beautiful holy mountain. Meaning, on a global scale, they're dispersed. They're like scattered or like placed strategically in the Med, in the Indian Ocean, in the South China Seas, in Japan, all over where they are. But the center focal point is the holy mountain of Jerusalem. And what happens when it's done, over and done with? A paralysis, a freeze, okay? They will come to their end, and no one will help them. The Cabal will come to its end, and no one will help them, all right? And then, get this, chapter 12, and this is a reference to the arrival of the Mashiach, all right? The Messiah, the soul of the Messiah, he has attached to it an angel. It's the archangel of the Jewish people. It's Michael. All right. The Messiah has many forces working with him, attached to his soul. He has a special soul. So this is Daniel chapter 12. At that time, Michael, the great prince who protects your people, the archangel of the Jewish people, will arise. There will be a time of distress such as has not happened from the beginning of nations until then. What do you think that describes, Claire? But at that time, your people, everyone whose name is found written in the book, shall be delivered. Multitudes who sleep. Now, this is talking about the resurrection of the dead. Multitudes who sleep in the dust of the earth will awake. some to everlasting life, others to shame and everlasting contempt. And it's not just the resurrection of the dead, it's the retribution, okay? Meaning the people that survive this, that are like walking dead zombies, okay? The majority who are like walking dead zombies, they will face judgment, okay? They will, they're sleeping in the dust of the earth, figuratively, okay? Some will be, like I'm talking about the normies, the people that are walking dead, like walking dead zombies, or just like people that are totally oblivious. The majority of people, that's how they behave. Like everything's hunky dory. Like that stupid fuck in Holland, that Dutch idiot. All right, that likes to, yeah, whatever. That likes to pretend like everything's fine, nothing will happen. All right. Those who are wise will shine like the brightness of the heavens, and those who led many to righteousness, like the stars forever and ever will shine, okay? But you, Daniel, roll up the seal and the words of the scroll until the time of the end. Many will go here and there to increase knowledge. This is a time in the end times, there will be a time of increased knowledge. Then I, Daniel, looked, and there before me stood two others on the bank of the river, and one on the opposite bank. One of them said to the man clothed in linen, who was above the waters of the river, how long will it take before these astonishing things are fulfilled? The man clothed in linen, who was above the waters of the river, lifted his right hand and his left hand toward heaven, and I heard him swear by him who lives forever, saying, it will be for a time, times and a half a time. Now this is a riddle. When the power of the holy people has been finally broken, all these things will be completed. When the Jewish people have become so tainted, so polluted, so poisoned, so corrupted, so weakened that their power has been broken, all these things shall be completed. I heard, but I did not understand, so I asked, my Lord, what will the outcome of all this be? And he replied, this is the person he's talking to, go your way, Daniel, because the words are rolled up and sealed until the time of the end. Many will be purified, made spotless and refined, but the wicked will continue to be wicked. Now, this is a reference from the final verse from Joel. Many will be purified, made spotless and refined. That this is when God will, redeem his people, cleanse his people, cleanse their blood, and see them as innocent. Their blood is no longer, guilty. Their blood is innocent. Many will be purified, made spotless and refined, but the wicked will continue to be wicked. None of the wicked will understand, but those who are wise will understand. From the time that the daily sacrifice is abolished and the abomination that causes desolation is set up, there will be 1,290 days. This is from the time of the destruction, when the sacrifices were stopped. That's the time of the desolation, the abomination of desolation brought about by the Romans. 1,290 days are not the literal, solar days. Okay, that's a calculation. That's God's calculation. It's nobody ever figured it out, but we came close. It's now. Okay, we see the visible signs of it now. Blessed is the one who waits for and reaches the end of the 1,335 days. And as for you, go your way till the end. This is a riddle, and people are supposed to do calculations, but they can never get it right. As for you, go your way till the end. You will rest, and then at the end of days, you will rise to receive your allotted inheritance. Daniel, the prophet, will return during the resurrection of the dead. All right, so that's another good little, verses from the book of Daniel to reflect upon where we are now. All right, there will be such an event that there has never been ever since the beginning of written history or human history until now. A global financial crisis on the level of such intense pain that it's written that people will be writhing in pain on the floor. That's also found in the prophets somewhere. It's in Yalkut Shimoni, and it's also in the prophets. I think it's in Zechariah, where it's mentioned that people will be writhing in pain, hunched over. I forget. It could be in Daniel as well. Anyway, I know it's found in the Hebrew prophets. You can only imagine what that is. When things go so south with the financial system, with the banking systems, with the security situation of people personally in their homes, in their towns, in their villages, in their cities, all hell breaks loose. This is God's retribution. This is chaos. This is the messianic, prophecies fulfilled. This is the time of the final redemption of the Jewish people, and it's the time for messianic revelation, God's revelation, God's direct involvement, where everybody gets put in their place. Nobody talks shit anymore. If they talk shit, they die. All right, but the Jews will be brought back to Israel against their will, and God will allow the Gentiles to push them out of the Gentile lands, because that's how God will operate. He will not pull them like personally and pluck them individually from their lands where they live amongst the Gentiles. He will allow the Gentiles to compel and convince the Jews to leave, with the threat of being killed. The Jews will live under the threat of death, and they will leave everything. Their only concern will be surviving and staying alive, surviving and keeping their children alive. They will surrender everything, all right, because they were foolish. They were given decades of warnings. They mocked it. They pretended like they gave excuses like Duvid. They made up all sorts of rationales. They don't want to recognize this time period as the time of messianic revelation. They want to dilly-dally. They want to procrastinate. They want to pretend. And we're willing to die because we're supposed to be martyrs. You fucking idiot. No Jew in his right mind would support that. That's utter madness. That's so stupid. All right? That just reflects on how retarded you are and how very conflicted and you're you know what? Mixed intermarried, the children of intermarried Jews that marry with the Gentiles, their children usually come out in a way that's not very pleasant. My rabbi calls them taranta. Taranta is basically like a jalopy. A taranta is basically like give me the name of that car that's always referred to as a jalopy.
I don't know. I don't know my cars. Define a jalopy, because I'm a bit vague.
A jalopy is like a car that always breaks down. A car that's like zift. A car that's like dysfunctional. A car that's like there's a word for it. They always had a word. There was a car that was put into that was sold and like where it was taken off the Etzel. You could say like an Etzel is like a jalopy. Or there's like the name of the Yugo, or there's the name of another car that's always considered to be a jalopy. Uh-huh. Anyway, you know what? It's like they come out spiritually, sort of like dysfunctional. Mm-hmm. They're always conflicted. It's not about just the conflicting religions and the soul of a Jew or Jewess and a non-Jew. It ends up with a very conflicted person. Mm-hmm. It ends up with a person that's not very stable. It's a dysfunctional person. All right. So when the time comes, and now we've reached the time when it's really critical, they need to do as much work on themselves as possible. They need to choose a side. If they're going to be Jewish, they have to choose to be Jewish. They can not have any of the Gentile influences from their Gentile parents affecting them. And he's affected. He argued in a way like a Christian, as though the Jews are Christian soldiers that have to sacrifice themselves as martyrs for their faith. Get the fuck out of here, you fucking loser! No way. The Jews aren't supposed to fill that role. We're not supposed to go looking for death and for martyrdom like some crusaders. Are you out of your fucking mind? The Jews have had enough on their plates where they were persecuted and pursued and murdered and raped without having to go look for it. Are you out of your fucking mind? That's what really triggered me. So that's a dysfunctional Jew, whatever, born of a Jewish mother.
I don't think David means it, I think he just says these things, but he's fundamentally a liberal, is what I'm trying to say. Always playing both sides, but trying to be Jewish and a good liberal at the same time. And
he's retarded. No, he's retarded. His arguments is as forceful as he likes to make them sound, as much as he uses leverage to say, well, you wanna go against the words of my famous rabbi? You wanna go against the words of the Rambam? The Rambam said, believe in Messiah. The Rambam said, believe in the arrival of the Messiah. And you have 1,000,001 signs slapping you in your fucking face, and you do not believe in the Messiah. You do not believe in the arrival of the Messiah. What my rabbi said about you people is that you have no God. You're godless, and you're without a God, living in the diaspora, living in the exile, and you're about to get a reckoning. You're about to get your comeuppance. If you survive, fine. But I know that the majority of the Jews will come here shattered, totally, humiliated, and shell shocked, traumatized. It will be the majority of them that will come here alive. But there will be a certain percentage that will be persecuted to the point of death, that will be pursued and put to death. The ones that are stubbornly holding on to what they should no longer be holding on to, as liberals or as quasi-Jews or half-Jews or Frankenstein combinations like what you find over there with these kind of characters, still making these arguments that they like to make. God is going to leave you with no quarter. The minute all this goes down, all of those people that you suck up to, that you want to, placate, in order that you should live in your comfortable little warm nest, they'll turn on you. They'll tear you to pieces. They'll take everything you have. They'll leave you with nothing, and they'll either kill you or they'll leave you for dead, to starve. All right, and that's the shame the Jews are about to face in living over there. That's their comeuppance for their arrogance. That's their comeuppance for their materialistic pride. That's their comeuppance for turning away. That's their comeuppance for distancing themselves from their being Jews, and for choosing to be Americans or liberal Americans or whatever type of fucking Americans they want to call themselves, or Canadians or Europeans. The same mistake was made 80 years ago. It led to the Holocaust. This time you should be grateful. It will not lead to a Holocaust. It will lead to your shame. It will lead to your being put down to the level of you being humbled, of you losing all of your possessions, of you being impoverished, and of you having to accept that it's God's judgment for your intransigence, for your stiff-necked, stubborn resistance, including religious Jews and Orthodox Jews. This is how severe and stern it will be for your stupidity in the face of all that is happening. And for your failure to properly interpret it, for your failure to properly recognize it as a threat to you and your children, you will be put through hell, but you will be brought here alive. That is your fate. That is where I end it. My throat is sore, and I'm dry-mouthed, and I need to drink something. And that is my rant, and enjoy it. Take it for and chew on it. Mm-hmm. Kind of like do your work on it. Not you. I'm talking to the audience. Religious Jews, non-religious Jews, Gentiles, pro, anti, whatever, all the different spectrum of assholes that like to criticize me for what I say. Anyway, so have a good night, Claire, and enjoy your weekend.
And the same
Take it
to
easy.
you, Sam. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.